Often when we think about the people in the Bible, we think of the well-known names. It could be Moses, it could be Abraham, it could be women like Deborah. We get into the New Testament, obviously it's the Peter and Paul, James and John, the disciples, and we think of others like Jesus, of course, who is the center theme of all of Scripture. But did you know that the Bible also has other important people in it? They're mentioned, but their names aren't. So when we oftentimes will skim through Scripture and just miss them because we're so busy looking at the main characters. Have been reading through the book of Acts again and was in Acts chapter 15. And in this account, Paul and Barnabas, two big names in the Bible, were in Antioch. And while they were there, we get to verse 35, Paul and Barnabas were preaching and teaching together, and it says, along with the others. Now, you may miss that point. Who in the world were the along with the others? Now, in this case, they were others who we don't know by name that were part of the ministry and part of the important part of the ministry. We know that as we look at the book of Acts, the church of Christ grew tremendously. It went from Jerusalem to Judea to the ends of the earth, and that never could have happened just with the disciples, those 11 guys' efforts. It had to be scores and scores of other people who were also faithful to proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ, who were faithful witnesses to not only what they had experienced, but what they knew to be true. So when you look at your life, do you feel like you're insignificant? You may not have the name, you may not feel like you have the gifts, or if you've studied your spiritual gifts, they may not be the important gifts. And you may wonder, what in the world can I do? I really don't have any of those skills that we see in the Bible. Well, we must remember that every believer in Jesus Christ was created in the image of God. And I don't care how ordinary you are still a human being created in God's image. And the beautiful part is that when we're created in His image, when we come to faith in Jesus Christ, a recreation happens. And where the beauty of Christ continues to grow in us. Our image bearing turns into bright lights. So we all have a job. We all have that place, like those other believers, in seeing the church, the message of the gospel expanded. So regardless of where you are, regardless of what you do, regardless of what education you may or may not have, regardless of what you may be facing in life, all of us are included in this glorious plan of God gathering the nations. We, along with Paul and Barnabas and those other believers who we don't know by name, have been called by God to declare the good news of the gospel to those who live, work, and play around us. I'm Bob Orner, and I'd like you to think about that.